Kitteez here, and I am going to show you how to make a simple custom weapon. Not one where it uses an actual gun to fire, but it fires something custom. Let us begin. First we have a get player stat chip set on the health stat. We have a combinator on subtraction, and a set player stat on health. We have a state machine with 2 states. We have 2 clamps, 1 piston with move to target on. We have 1 trigger zone, does not matter what mode it is. We have 1 trigger zone that must be tagged with the same object as this, which is the plate. I'm going to be using a paint sniper for this tutorial. We have a trigger zone for the bullet collision and the player collision. We also have our laser. Let's get started. First, let's set up our state machine. Select wire and connect these. Make sure to do it in that order and then loop it back around. Now we have 2 states infinitely going from each other. See this trigger zone here? We tagged it with shoot. We're going to set it so that way whenever something leaves the zone, being the plate, we want that to trigger this. And now we need to make sure that when this hits something, I recommend using this objects in zone, just in case if it's in something it doesn't fire, have that trigger that back. Additionally, you can have a manual reset by using the boolean. You can set it to OR mode and make it so that way whenever you press your trigger, it will reset, or when it hits something. Or in my case, I'm also going to make it so that way when it hits a player, it can also reset. Connect this here. Our state machine is now set and ready to go. Next, I recommend you set up the piston. Make sure that using the configure tool, set this little 0 that's red to a 1, so the gizmo is now always on. Select wire, go to your state machine, value 1, set this to the green, and set value 2 to the target position. Go to configure, select your second state that we're using when something leaves this zone, set your value 1 to be the bullet speed. As an example, I will be using 500. And no matter what happens, set your value 2 to 9999999. Make sure there are 7 9s there. Your piston, make sure that your max travel distance is as far as you want the bullet to be able to go. I like having mine at infinite, so once again, 7 9s. You can set an acceleration time if you want, but I'm not going to be using that for this tutorial. Next, let's set up the holding part of the gun, where the player holds it. Select your move tool. Move one of these clamps over. I'm going to unfreeze my sniper, so I need to select it to move it back up. I'm going to wire it, and now freeze the sniper. What I also do now is unfreeze the plate. Oh, it fell to the ground. Make sure it's set to breakable. The respawn on the pirate plate is set to 1 second, but do not have this checked. Select and tag it with shoot, or whatever tag you have it set here. It fell through the ground again. Connect the sniper to the base of the gizmo. Looks like we have 2 plates here. Select your plate that has the tag that is going to be used here. Grab it and put it in front of your actual weapon. Now using the wire tool, connect your pirate plate or whatever breakable object you're using to the yellow part of the gizmo. Be sure that the object respawn is set to 1 second without this being checked. Next, let's get our green trigger zone, which is the object trigger zone that makes sure if this is in the zone or not. Make sure this is selected here and wire it. Something broke. Be careful when selecting multiple things, as sometimes you'll select what you don't want to select and unwire it. Now both of these are connected to the gizmo, which is also connected to the sniper. Now, let's set up our other clamp. This clamp is going to make sure that it shoots properly. Wire this clamp to the clamp that we used earlier. Remember, use the top to connect objects, connect the base of a clamp to connect that base, and move it with the object that's connected. Now, we're going to use this release. Set this to the green on our second state. Now we need another trigger zone. This is not going to be used for anything except for making the bullet come back when it's supposed to, because there is a certain bug where the gizmos may break if you don't have this here. Connect the end of this gizmo to this trigger zone. Use your move tool and get your piston now. I would recommend centering this so it works the best possible way. Now connect the base of your piston gizmo to this trigger zone. Freeze the trigger zone, though, and no one grabs the bullet midair, because I don't think anyone wants that. Now we connect all of these three. Connect the trigger zone, the player trigger zone, and your projectile. You may want to scale small to get it to work properly. This is not required. Now you have your projectile connected to this. Let's test it out. Turn on gizmos if it's not already on. Unfreeze this and fire. You now have a fireable object. Click it again, it will reset. That's why I use this boolean here. You can feel free to insert more plates if you want a faster fire rate. It seems that our projectile is working pretty well from so far. Let's re-snap it. And freeze it, that way we may continue working. Due to how trigger zones work, we're going to need to create an environment out of maker pen shapes. For this tutorial, I'm going to make something very basic. Let's make a bit of a floor with a wall. Now what you must do is tag your environment with any tag that's not been used. I prefer to use the tag world. Now run over to your big trigger zone around your projectile. Make sure that's tagged with the same thing. Let's just scale this up so we have a proper environment to use. Freeze it. And now the bullet will auto come back when we fire it there. I should probably turn on gizmos. It'll fire and come back. And now it's proper collision. Let's prop up our sniper back up here. Next, let's make it so that way whenever a player is hit, let's lower their health. First, let's get the player who enters this trigger zone and hook it up to our get player stat. From here, get their value and subtract it by how much health. In this scenario, I'm going to do 50. Set the value here. The set right here. And the player there. If you did it correctly, you should get this message if you're not in game. That means we have set it up correctly. Now, if you want, you can also make it so that way the player who is holding this sniper does not get hit by the trigger zones, but that is a much more advanced process, and I will not be showing that in this video. Let's test this out again. Again, 5 plates with the sniper works the best. You cannot grab this, so no one can grab the bullet. Let's just set that down there. Select this. And move it back up. Move this a bit closer. And that is the basics of making a custom projectile in Rec Room. There are multiple ways to get this to work. You don't always have to make it a player shootable. If you want, you can have it look at something and shoot that instead. Let's see how you do that. Let's get a look at gizmo. Make sure it's always on. And let's tag it with target. I like to set it to closest, that way the closest thing will be shot. Now what we do is remove this plate, stop gizmos, and remove the sniper rifle. The only problem now is that the gizmo is glitched out, so let's quickly fix it by connecting something to the base and disconnecting it. You can simply double click the base of a gizmo to unconnect it, or any other object. Set this here, so to now look at anything that it wants to shoot. There are multiple ways to make it auto-fire. If you want to, you can set a delay between shots by choosing and changing the minimum time in state. For this tutorial, let's use 0.5 seconds. Let's have it follow a cutlass and tag it with target. Just in case, we may want a manual reset. So let's copy this, set it to a player trigger zone, and make it so that way whenever someone enters the zone, it will reset the bullet. I will be right back and make this a full area. I have now moved the shooter up there, and it will start following me as soon as I turn on gizmos. Due to some bugs, feel free to tap this and get yourself started again. And now you have a proper shooter. If this hits me, as of now I have it so whenever it hits a player, it'll also make the bullet stop. Candy. Using this combination of gizmos and circuits, you can make all kinds of fun, crazy inventions and or creations. Or maybe, if you know how to make a follower, maybe make some kind of shootout. I hope you have fun with this, and I hope this tutorial helped.